Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Welcome back to the Bold Book of the Day podcast. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson, and this podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Today's guest spent over 40 years in the classroom before deciding it was finally time to share a character she'd been carrying since she was in the fourth grade.
Yes.
And so she had that yearning to get that character on paper since the 60s. And so she decided finally that character, Jelly Bean, would come out and be a part of her children's life. She shared it with her 3 children and then her 7 grandchildren. And it just took some time, but they, loved it. But it took some time for her to get that character, get the nerve to write the book. And she then created the Adventures of Jelly Bean series. I'm so proud of you for getting your dream out of your head and onto paper. Congratulations, Amy, and
Thank
welcome to our Bold Book of the Day podcast.
Thanks, Denise. Thank you.
You are welcome. So tell me, Jelly Bean lived in your imagination since you were in the 4th grade. What happened in the 4th grade that you needed to create this character?
So what happened was, as I can remember, since I'm 73 now, so this was quite a while ago, but classmates of mine remember, which surprised me when I found this out, when I would be called to the front of the class when my teacher had downtime. I had this very good, very interesting teacher, Mrs. Trenham, and if she had this time, she would call me up to the front, and my other classmates were mesmerized because I would make up these stories about this little forthright 4th grader named Jelly Bean. It's her nickname, obviously. And I would come to the front of the room and tell these stories about her off the top of my head. She was just started out as a mischievous little girl, and everyone loved it. I had classmates who've saved things I wrote from them. I didn't even have them. And we actually had met recently, some of us, at a former classmate's funeral. And I said, Betsy, I don't believe this. I know you've moved a couple of times. And she had saved it. I was like, wow.
So that story impacted her and many of the other students that were in your class enough for them to remember it.
Yes. Which surprised me, but I mean, it made me happy.
And then you spent years teaching. Were you sharing the stories while you were a teacher?
Oh, sometimes I did, because I would work on it intermittently during the many years that I was teaching. Yeah. And sometimes I'd read it when I had like upper elementary school ages.
Yeah.
And they always liked it, and the kids have the best suggestions. And then I would, the child's the father of the man and all that. I feel like you learn so much from younger people. And then when I had my own children, they had some ideas. And then I was just busy between raising children, helping with my grandchildren, working. I had ailing parents. My husband couldn't be around much because of his work hours. And so it kind of went to the side a little bit and a lot. And I was just, so busy with other things. And then finally, and so, yes, I did get many suggestions from other children who always seemed to have, many of them, very, very cool ideas that were useful. And so I would use them here and there.
I noticed that the topics are pretty heavy. So did you get the topic ideas from over the years as a teacher? Because you talk about stuff like death.
From students. Definitely.
And race, drugs and alcohol.
And from my own experiences
Yeah.
and my own life and knowing a wide range of people and having a wide range of students. All
So
these things come up.
what is, so is that why it was so important for you to tackle these topics, because your students were experiencing these things?
Hmm. My books are very, I mean, it's always handled on a level of a preteen. I don't have sex in there. I don't have any curse words.
Yeah.
So there's that. But kids have to deal with these various topics. And my characters kind of write themselves. And since I have been in some of my reviews, which I'm very glad about, been compared to Judy Blume. And I did actually, I was just dying to meet her.
Yeah.
And she had said to me, I said, could I just have a little bit of guidance? And she said, you have to go with your gut, like whatever, because her books had been, some of them banned for a while.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't go into extreme depth about these topics, but they're there.
Yeah.
They're, kids have to confront them. Because I remember when, let's say, my aunt died, and we weren't told much until times have kind of changed. And Jelly Bean in my stories has three older brothers. So these are some things from my own life, like some of them in her family, her older siblings are rebellious. And that's not great with parents. So many people of different generations really enjoy my stories because it's a good springboard into how to deal with various things that aren't your top choice when they arise.
But they're
And
happening anyway.
exactly. And you kind of have to know how to approach these things with your children. So it's good to be reading something with them because it's very hard to just mention something out of the blue. It's sort of not going to work out as
So
well.
how did you know exactly how much to share and where to stop? Did your conversations with the students over the years kind of guide you on how deep you should go?
Yes,
Okay.
especially when I had older students because I did teach in high school and then college, which I did like the best because you can do the most with, and usually, generally speaking, they want to be there for the most part.
Yes.
Most most of them, but to engage, well, and with my high school kids also, they're so familiar. Once the guidance counselor came in and I was teaching Shakespeare to my non-college bound students, I haven't thought about this in a while, and I had easy versions of the books, and there are some movies based on the Macbeth and Othello, and I'd show portions of those. And once the guidance counselor walked in, and these were 11th graders, not college bound, who had kind of hard scrabble lives. One lived in a shelter with his mother. One, I think, was out on the street. One had been abandoned by both parents. Various situations, which these were all kind of new to me, but they exist. This can happen. And so how much depth to go into? Ooh, so,
Mhm.
like characters kind of tell me, but I can't. It's not a. It's not geared for adults, so I wouldn't get too crazy psychologically or in detail about what
Right. What's
really,
happening? Yeah.
yes, in lurid detail. But Jelly Bean does have this best friend that she loves so much. Who, well, I don't want to, spoiler alert. Little girl
Yes,
has to move
give
away, and
us
she,
the tea.
yeah. Well, in any event, she leaves, has to leave the town. It's a
Okay.
family situation, and she's had some really tough things in her life. This little girl, and Jelly Bean's like, she doesn't exactly know how to respond. So she, which is what we would all do, go to an adult who can sometimes be easier than speaking to a parent,
Yeah.
and finds out, because the little girl will say, her little friend, you can't tell anybody this, but she's torn.
Mm.
She doesn't want something bad to happen to this little girl. My books are really very real.
Yeah.
And so her aunt, this new aunt that she likes very much, guides her into what she ought to do. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Jellybean, she deals with a lot of family tension in the book.
Hmm.
Talking about, tensions with siblings and
Hmm.
parents, even one uncle with questionable choice in fiance.
Yes.
How much of that is inspired by real family dynamics that you've witnessed?
No, everything. It
Yeah.
all is. Even if much wasn't explained to us growing up,
Yeah.
because growing up in the 50s and 60s, things were kind of different and you sort of found out a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes, one person, I make it in my story that he's about to marry, but don't worry, that doesn't happen. And yeah, it's an uncle who was very close with their family, and this happens a lot, a lot, a lot. Was
Yes.
about to marry someone, and that wouldn't have been a great choice. Her parents don't like the little girl that she just
Oh, okay.
adores, and that happens a lot. You scratch
Yes.
the surface of anybody, and parents don't like a boyfriend or a girlfriend
Yes.
or a choice. Like the oldest brother, I don't know if you got this far. This doesn't really mean everything. He does not only does he not want to go to college, he doesn't want to finish high school.
Oh,
And
wow.
that happens, and how the parents respond and how this affects all the family members and how it
Yes.
can take attention away from you or Jelly Bean in
Yeah.
this case. And, sometimes she can turn to her dog, and she loves this Brittany, who is a pretty good listener. And, sometimes I have it in there that parents, and this, because now I'm a grandmother, so I've gone through all these stages. Parents are really busy people. And especially in a family of 4 children, they don't always have time to tune into what's bothering you or her
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what's on your mind. And sometimes you need attention right away, but they're not always available, either physically or emotionally or both.
And it seems like this book is teaching children also that your parents are not going to always be available, but if you can find a trusted family or a trusted adult that you can talk to when things are tough or when things are burdening you, if it's on your mind, find someone that you can share it with. And I think that's a very powerful message because it helps with the mental health of the child very early on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's because all these situations are going to arise. You're going to have a friend who has certain problems.
Yeah.
You're going to want to help them. You can't always fix them, but you can listen and try to do whatever it is you can do. And I think that's why, which I hadn't had in mind originally, but in my reviews, some of them say, from Kirkus and US Review, which are pretty good reviews.
I know.
Thanks. That I was a little bit happily surprised. They said Jelly Bean's a real role model. And I was like, wow. It
Yep.
wasn't how I started out, because she does get into mischief. I mean, she's a real regular kid. She's not, just a do-gooder angel by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes you do, or I see children or my own kids who just had to go by their own desires, let's say, or what they felt like doing, which isn't always right. But my PR person, because some of the questions I had to answer, I think for one of the publishers, was what does the book teach you, or what's an underlying theme? And I was like, oh God, I don't know. He said to me, it teaches children to think for themselves. To, like I would say to my college kids, it was one of the units in our curriculum, and it was on. Back then, people couldn't say if they were gay, and they weren't allowed to show it and all that.
Hmm.
And a couple of students said, well, my grandmother doesn't approve of it, or my church doesn't approve of that, or such. And I said, look, I don't want to go against, I'm not saying it's a good idea to go against your grandmother or your church. I'm just saying you should think for yourself. I'm not saying go out and start taking drugs. I don't mean that at all. But if there's some issue that you're not in agreement with an older person in your life, think it through and make
Yes.
the best decision.
Kirk has also called your heroine Jelly Bean endearing
Hmm.
and plucky. What do you hope young readers, especially young girls, take away from Jelly Bean and how she handles adversity?
Yeah, I mean, it is good actually for girls and boys. You'll see, I'm in the
Uh-huh.
middle of writing my book four, but I'll give you an example. Okay, her oldest brother, oldest of four, the one who dropped, spoiler alert, drops out of high school and he joins the Marines, and he's in a dangerous place. He When it takes place, it's pretty soon after 9/11, and he's in Iraq, and of course the parents are pretty worried all the time.
Yeah.
And so the teacher asks Jellybean to talk about this in class, which, I did a lot, talk about current events. And this is someone who has knowledge of it. And kids had a chance to ask her questions in my book based on things that, happen in real life. And so when some of the kids were asking, the typical type of questions, and one boy calls out, is he going to die? And everyone, of course, the whole class is like, oh my, how can you say that? Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, Jellybean, I'll get emotional, but she goes, he's just saying what everyone is thinking. And
Oh,
so she is like a role model and a plucky kid, because she does like to stick up for the underdog in many
and that
cases.
and that takes a lot of courage
It
because it's
does.
never easy to stand
No.
up for the underdog.
Now, it can
Wow.
also be not
She's a
have,
real hero. Yeah.
yeah, it can also have not such great results for her, because at
Yeah.
one point, some of the more, and the popularity is such a huge thing at those age, well, many ages, and some of them came over to her house and they see her big brothers, and she just blurts out, as she tends to do, my heroine there. She goes, and they said, "Oh, you should have a sleepover." And she said, she goes to them, the popular kids who had come over to her house, "Oh, you just want to be around my brothers or something." Well, that's going to get her into trouble, because no one's going to want to hear it might be their motive, but nobody's going to respond well. So they all kind of walk out.
She's a true role model. Okay. I love Jelly Bean. Okay, so my question is, as a teacher, as a former teacher, what do you think some of the kids are navigating today that
Mm.
is different from what they were going through and what they faced in your generation?
Wow. Well, the main thing would be tablets and everything online and everything
Mm-hmm.
they're exposed to now, and I see with my children and how they are towards their children, you can try to prevent a lot of things happening. But if they find out about sex, drugs, rock and roll, it's pretty hard it's good to have a book or something, not be involved in X and such. You don't do it. You're gonna. Even one of my younger grandchildren said, if someone hands you a drink, even a water bottle, you have to just dump it out and wash it out. You have to be so wary. So that was not happening when I was growing up. All that type of thing. So there's a
What
lot
stayed
more
the
out there.
same? What stayed the same? A lot of things changed. A lot of things
Mhm.
are different now, but what has stayed the same?
Definitely popularity. That's always, I think, through the years and for all time, that's just and parents and children and the generations. They're very hard to form a bridge to understand one another. Like that's where the grandmother comes in and
Yeah.
says to the mom, could this be me? Um, you shouldn't be so mad at her because she just wants to, well, and something occurs where she just needed to go see her friend. And if it's not allowed, what are you going to do?
And you know, the grandmother, they're going to take up for their grandchildren all
Always,
the
always,
time.
always.
Okay.
True, true, true. Yeah. So when she sneaks to go there, which is what most kids would do, and I don't know if times are ever going to change in that regard, when you're not allowed to do something, it's a tough thing. And that's
Yeah.
why I wrote my 15 things for parents to try to, it's on my website. Not
Yeah.
that I'm the world's biggest authority, but just from having been there and having taught like middle school, high school, and college, is that you just mostly have to try to keep the lines of communication open, which is really hard, even when you're so mad.
Yeah. How did you decide what should you tackle and show the growth of Jelly Bean over the time? Because it's been 4 books. So how did you decide what to address and how should I show her growth?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question because I'm still kind of grappling with it. Like I
Uh-huh.
was very stuck. I mean, I'll be honest, because I'm not even finished with my book 4. And I was like, oh my God, should this kid who she is sticking up for, this little boy who just gets bullied, and that's like a huge issue.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
And it's so
goodness.
important. And it's not always paid attention to because, again, the supervisors and principals and vice principal, I don't want to give anyone a bad rap because I see
Right.
how hard they work and there's just so much going on, but does have to be attended to. And my 8-year-old, one of my 8-year-old my granddaughter I said, I don't know what to have him do. And because he can't defend himself very well, which happens to some poor kids who get in trouble on that account and they're just easy to pick on. She said, have him learn karate. And I was like, wow,
And
perfect.
how old? Yeah, how old was she?
She's 8.
Wow.
I know, because
Yes.
she takes karate and she really likes
Yeah.
it. And I
And
said, it hadn't occurred to me. I said,
it
great
probably
idea.
was giving her some, a level of confidence that
Yeah,
she felt like if somebody were to do that to me, I would respond this way, you know? So
exactly.
he need to learn this. Oh wow.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was like, wow, thank you. From the mouths of babes.
I know. Wow. But
So,
60 years in the making, one unforgettable fourth grader and just a remarkable book about changing and learning and growing and tackling really hard conversations. Life is complicated, but Jelly Bean makes it relatable.
thanks. Yeah. It was, who hasn't experienced these things? Your parents not liking a friend for
Yeah,
a reason you think is dumb, and
yeah.
maybe it is, but there's many sides to a lot of issues, and I sort of make you see them. So,
You said you hope your books spark conversations. What conversations do you most want parents and their, to have with their kids after reading Jelly Bean story?
oh, so you mean my books 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would say that it's just important to talk about something that's going on with a friend or with in your own mind. You're not sure which way to go on something.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the most important to talk about not going along with the crowd if you don't think that's the right thing to do. It's very hard, really is. So it's good to have parents who at least could try and listen and help figure out some sort of compromise
Yeah.
wherever there can be one.
You know, you s- I think one of the most important thing is to listen because you don't know what their day was really like.
You're so
And
right.
sometimes, yeah, they don't know how to articulate it.
How to express it. True.
But if you look at the body language and listen, you can figure out that something is off, even if you don't know exactly what it is. So I think one of the best
Yeah.
things we can do is just have a safe space for children to talk, especially after school. There
Yeah.
should be some ritual that they know when you come home it's going to be milk and cookies or something, to ground them and sit down and just start to give them that opportunity to talk about their day. I
Yeah.
used to do that with my children, when they came home, when they were younger, because
Mhm.
at some point I remember I was working and wasn't there in the evenings, but when they were young, I was there, and I, created a ritual where they can just talk to me about what happened during the day in school. And I think that helped them to just talk about all of the fun stuff, all, and what was going on. You can hear something that they didn't even understand that was what was going on, but I can tell. Okay, did you say somebody pushed Tommy and that person pushed him yesterday? What's going on?
Mhm.
So
Right.
you can, if you're listening and you're providing a space, a safe space for them to just be open, just talk, you can pick things up that they're not seeing.
No,
So
that's right. That's
yeah,
certainly the hope for sure. And it's
yeah.
interesting because I had read this one book. I thought at the time it wasn't so much Amazon, but I was in a bookstore and
Uh-huh.
it was either with one of my kids that we were having our ups and downs, let's say. And I thought I'll either have to pay for some high priced shrink or buy a book that's going to give me some ideas because what I'm doing doesn't seem to be working too well. And and it was reminding me a little bit of myself. I wouldn't have been rebellious to that level because we punishments were a little harsher than when I was growing up, put it like that. But I wasn't quite sure what to do.
Yeah.
And we weren't really communicating well, we'll put it nicely. So this book said more or less what you're saying because it said, among other things, and this was called, it was a generic title,
Mm-hmm.
Positive Discipline for Teenagers. And
Mm.
it had a lot of written by two women. I remember I don't know if it's still in print, but I should give them some credit because it helped me a lot. Their names were Lott, Lott, and
Uh-huh.
Nelson, Nelson. I
Uh-huh.
recommended this to a lot of people over the years because high school parents, they'll talk to you and all kinds of stuff goes on. But as
I
you,
like that. I like that you recommended that book because I remember I went to the library and I went to the bookstores. I was the one looking for books because each child that you have is so different. And I
I
remember
know.
um the one that I'm looking to the left, that is How to Talk to Kids So They Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. That
Oh,
book, girl, that book helped me.
that
And then
sounds
there was
wonderful.
another one, Have a New Kid by Friday. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Oh, that's ambitious.
I
But,
know.
but
And
hey,
and
try it.
I thought, okay, I'm gonna try it. It's, something's got to work. But
Right.
you
You're
know,
at the point where you'd try anything,
yes, yes.
mostly. Yeah.
But so I love that your book, your series, they follow Jelly Bean throughout her life, and they show a couple of different things that she's gone through, and it teaches kids, it teaches young children that they have a voice and they can
Mhm.
stand up for themselves and stand up for others, because there were a lot of examples where Jelly Bean was standing up for others.
Yes.
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
she makes the decision whether to go with her anorexic friend who was
Uh-huh.
in trouble and or stay and do her part in the gym meet. And we've
Yes.
all had those dilemmas, like which way to go,
Mhm.
do I do what I've set out intended to do, which was important to me, or help someone right when like my
Through a
mom would
tough
always
time. Yeah.
it is. My mom would always
Yeah.
say you have to help someone when they need the help. Like you
Yes.
can't say, "Well, come back next week," that kind of thing.
Yep.
But so what you said was so important, because in the book she also stresses, if you these two authors, if you change around the letters of listen, you get silent. And it's so hard to be like when you want to say, well, you're so irresponsible, or why did you do so? No, instead
Zip it.
you should
Yeah.
step back and try and listen, and then
Yes.
come to some sort of understanding.
I'm learning that for myself also, that you are so much more productive when you are silent, and you get such a better response when you hold back, because sometimes you jump to the conclusion trying to respond too quickly. Trying to get I gotta respond, I gotta say something, I gotta be snappy. But I find that I get the more peace and more joy out of being silent and just letting time go by.
No, you're
So
right.
yeah, so they are so right. When you're not quite sure what to say, just be silent.
No, you're right. You're right. And then it'll sort of percolate, and you'll figure out what might, maybe not perfect, but what would be best to say in response. And also, as
Yeah.
my grandmother once would say, you don't have to hear everything. Like certain things,
Exactly.
so tempted to go, what's that supposed to mean? What do you mean? And sometimes you have to
don't
leave it
have to
alone.
hear everything.
Kind of good.
Yes, that is very good. What advice would you give to grandparents and parents who just want, they just want to help kids navigate the hard stuff, like popularity, friendship, even loss, and family changing and family moving? Like, what
Yes.
advice can you give to parents and grandparents the way Jelly Bean does?
Well, my book has a lot to do with changes and how you navigate them, which is never really easy for most of us, especially when you're younger and you can't fully understand why someone has to move away, why someone died.
Yeah.
Even adults really can't tackle that one. I mean, that's my dad died
tough,
pretty
yeah.
young, very, and you just have to help them. What am I looking for? Arrange it in their minds so that things can make as much sense to them as possible. And like my one little granddaughter came home and she said, God has his arms wrapped around the equator. He's right around. And I thought that was kind of nice. She goes, but, someone in my class, they don't believe in God. I said, but you know what? That's what, it's a tough one. I said, that's what makes most sense to him or her. And you want to try to teach them to absorb these various ways of being and thinking, and otherwise, where are we as a world?
Yes, you're going to encounter others along the journey of life that think differently, believe differently, and look differently.
Exactly. Yeah, because Jelly Bean, she doesn't notice that her friend is mixed race.
Yeah.
And to her, doesn't mean anything. But her friend says, but I am. And that's something I have to deal with. And Jelly Bean's like, she questions it. She's like, why? Like, look around. Everybody looks different. So it's so hard to inculcate different ideas. Like, well, sadly, not everyone feels that way. And, it's a sad thing, but it's good for them to be aware of these things so that they can combat it. And that's part of the message in my books, I would say.
To have the conversation, yes.
Oh, yeah. Definitely important.
So after 60 years with this character, what does it feel like to finally see Jelly Bean out in the world?
It's such a funny thing because it took me so long, as you well know, and it took and COVID, which was so terrible on so many levels.
Yes.
And so I don't know if I had mentioned this to you. So we were stuck at home, and I could either clean out my closets or sit down and finish writing my books, send them around. And when, I had a couple of rejections naturally. And then when I saw people or different publishers were interested, I remember saying to my daughter, I don't know, maybe this is a friend of mine pranking me, because I just, like you say, had been so long. And she's like, Mom, that's because I reread it a couple times. She said, that sounds very real to me. So I was, it was a long process, all the editing and the back and forth, and that was a whole. And I've guided other people have asked me what to do with getting their books out there, and it is a great feeling when you finally do. It takes a lot of doing, I'll say that much, but
Yeah, well, writing a book is not easy, and certainly it doesn't get easier when you're publishing it, because it, especially if you're whether you're doing it yourself or self-publishing with a hybrid company, or whether you're doing it traditionally, it takes a lot of back and forth. It takes a lot of work. It
does.
takes going the distance, because this is something that you feel worthy of putting out into the world, because you know it's going to make a difference. Like, look at Jelly Bean. She's such an inspiration. She's, a go-getter also, because she is encouraging others to do the things like talk about race, talk about moving, talk about your feeling, talk about anorexia, talk about these difficult things. I love that for her. She's encouraging, but it is not easy to get these characters out of your head and get this
right
done. But it's worth it. It's worth it, because it makes such a difference. The message is out there. So
you're right.
If you have an idea to write a book, you really have to make up your mind that it's going to take hard work, but results is more important.
Right. It's going to take your time. You're not going to have time for something else.
Yes.
Which is funny when what you just said about when you make up your. Oh, plenty of people call me or ask me, you know what, I have an idea. Well, everybody has ideas. I mean, that's the easy part. But if you are going to sit yourself down and do it, as I said, it took me till COVID when we were stuck in the house. And my daughter said, what? You're not going to be able to come babysit? I said, it's not permissible right now. So, okay, so that was manufactured time for me. But it's always funny when people call and say, oh, I have an idea. Well, you got to have something written. You have to.
Yes.
Force
I can't just work with what you got in your head. You got let's see what you're working with. Write something down.
Even if the next day you look at it and you're like, I wrote this piece of junk, like this is terrible, and you start all over. That happens.
For the person that's listening that has a dream inside of them to write a book, what's a bold promise that you can share with them that may cause them to finally make a move on that bold
so
dream?
That's funny. So I would tell my kids that like you do. Like when I got my job at as a professor teaching English, I knew I could do it, but I didn't have a lot of advanced credentials, but I just knew this was something I could. And I had to say to my supervisor, who was going like, no, you're not what we're looking for. This is, your resume isn't the right thing. No, sorry, no. And I said, I can be whatever you want me to be. And I meant it. So I'd say, if that's your passion to write a book or whatever else is in your mind, you have to do your absolute best to follow it. Regrets later on, and you know what? How many people do you know that will say to you, I've always wanted to X and such, but I never did. I never found the time, or that, and
you have the opportunity to live your life with no regrets. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
It's not easy. Well, I would get there, like to continue writing more openly, because people will say, is Jelly Bean, is she going to get older? Well, if I continue the series, yes. So she will confront more things. And I do keep in mind what Judy Blume told me. It was so surreal, and felt so fortunate that I got to meet her at her not-for-profit bookstore. It's a what's the farthest tip of Florida? It's Key West.
Key West.
Uh-huh. So and I am trying to follow that advice, like go with your heart. I'll have to figure out how she deals with these ongoing and upcoming situations in a believable way.
Yeah. I was going to ask, what's a bold statement that you can make that will cause a paradigm shift? But it sounded like you just said it. Go with your heart. But I'm going to let you say, is that a bold statement that you'd like to share that can cause a paradigm shift? Or do you have another one?
No, I would say be bold and go with your heart, and not in an obnoxious way, but you do, if you can't help it, but you do have to push yourself
Yes.
to accomplish. And I always told my kids that, and my students, when they'd be worried about, oh, what happens if, because I had some not college bound seniors in high school, kind of what's going to become of me. And I said, it's a big world out there. If you find the area that speaks to you, that would be good for your talents and abilities, you have to go for it. You really do. Even if it's not what you originally intended.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm. Be bold.
Where can readers get your book?
So, okay, on Amazon, or you can contact me. I can always this is my book 3. I have The Adventures of Jelly Bean, The Further Adventures of Jelly Bean, The Still Further Adventures of Jelly Bean. I know I have to come up with some sort of more original title. I should have a contest about that for my book 4. But Amazon, that's the easiest. Or Pegasus is my publisher. You can contact them. Easy to look up. And my website has all my info on it. It's amypollack.com.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much. I always admire when people get their stories out there. I'm a storyteller. I love to write stories. And I've been writing my stories since the 3rd grade. So just to hear that, just to hear your story, it just lights me up, because I love, this is one of my passions, to see people get their stories out of their heads and onto paper and out into the world. So thank you for joining us today and for sharing the Jelly Bean's journey, and for sharing that after 60 years, you went out there and finally did it. And boy, wasn't it worth it? All this wait, it was just worth it, right?
It totally is.
If you haven't yet gone out to get your book, The Adventures of Jelly Bean, The Further Adventures of Jelly Bean, and The Still Further Adventures of Jelly Bean, it's available now wherever books are sold. So please go out there and support our author, Amy Pollack. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or a grandmother or grandparent, there is a book there for you and your child, the child in your life. So,
and I do presentations at the schools everywhere. So,
oh my goodness,
happy to come in.
The kids are lucky to have you.
Thank you.
So thank you again for stopping by, and I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to the 4th book in the series.
I'm in the middle.
Okay, take your time, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again, Amy. And for anyone listening, if you have, an idea of writing a book, like Amy said, just get it out of your head, write it. If you need help doing that, we have a writing class that meets during the week on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Sundays at 11 a.m. And, we help you just get your ideas clear, especially if you're writing a children's book. It sounds like it's easy, but it's not easy to write a children's book. But we'll give you some support. So if you need help with that, join the Writing Incubator, go to boldpublishings.com, and we can help you with that. Now, for those of you who are listening, please go out there and don't put it off. Get it today. Do it now. be supportive and get Amy's book. And then after you get the book, write to her and tell her if there are any of the topics that she's covered that you're tackling, especially if you're a teacher. I love teachers. So I think teachers make a big difference in our lives. And I think that if you're a teacher and you get this book, you can, get some of create a sacred space for your children and get some of the topics that we're discussing or that were discussed in this series, and talk to your students about it, but then write to Amy and tell her about your experience with your students.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, Amy.
Take care. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson, or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.